Behind me over here, this is a Victoria plum. It's your traditional type dark plum that you might buy at the supermarket, and it is super sweet, really, really tasty. The problem is they're actually not perfect for making plum wine or plum cider or anything like that because they don't have enough tannins. We have got some other plums that will definitely add the tannins because they have that bitterness on the skin. Still very sweet inside, but the skin certainly has a lot of tannins. These are phenomenal, so tasty. This is the other plum tree, which is just laden with plums. Passers-by are eating them all the time, and that's perfectly fine because we just have so many. If you look up above, there are just tons and tons of plums on here. We'll definitely have plenty to make. A lot. Actually, look at that. That is incredible. Before we get started crushing up our plums, I need to reiterate how important cleaning, sanitizing and sterilizing is when you're doing any sort of home brewing, whether that's making beer, wine, cider, it doesn't matter. This is hugely important. As important as it is when you're making hot sauce. And if you want to know how to make hot sauce, I have plenty of videos on my channel. Go check them out and you can find out how to make some really spicy stuff. VWP, it doesn't have to be VWP. This is just what I use. It's cheap and it's very effective. This stuff, when you finish using it, you have to rinse off whatever you've cleaned because you do not want this going inside your brew. The second stuff that is magic is Star Sand. I make a spray that I use and that will just go on everything that I'm going to be using. Its prime ingredient is phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid is the same stuff that's inside Coca-Cola, and at the dilution rates that this needs to be diluted, again this is very, very concentrated, this is perfectly safe not to rinse off. So it's what's called a no rinse sanitizer. Another method you can use is to just use one of these and just crush them down into there. A bit more time consuming, but get the job done. And you can, of course, if you have a juicer, use that instead. Another way of doing this is with a food mill. In fact, this is probably the best way to do it if you're doing a small batch, because these things are just so effective. I love this thing. I use it for my hot sauce making as well. But if you get a good one like this, and I'll link it down below, it is just fantastic. We have had a long day. It is now 5:15. We've been picking plums most of the morning, and most of the afternoon we've been processing these plums to make our lovely juice. We have just over 15 liters. One Camden tablet needs to be added to this juice. Put it on a spoon and then another spoon on top and give it a bit of a crush, and it should do exactly that. And we're going to put that straight in. The reason for it is because you want to kill any of the wild yeasts that are in here, because we're going to be adding a yeast to this tomorrow, and that's going to make sure that it has a nice clean fermentation, and it's going to also have a decent alcohol content. But the first thing you're going to need, absolutely are going to need, is yeast. Now the yeast I'm using today is EC1118. EC1118 is a very well-known yeast that is used for wines that you want to get a decent ABV above 10-12%. The other yeast I would use is the one that I used in my pear cider video, which is super wine yeast. I actually couldn't get hold of any for this video, so I'm going to be using some of this instead. The fact is you can use wild yeast that exists naturally on these things, but it's a bit of a gamble and you don't know exactly what you're going to get at the end. Yeast nutrients actually aren't that essential because there's a lot of nutrients available for the yeast anyway in these type of fermentations, but I like to add a little bit of yeast nutrients. It just helps that fermentation along the way. When it comes to making the wine clearer, you want something called pectolase. Now, not only does this help with clearing the wine, but also it helps with pulling more juice out of the plums. Something else that helps with clarity is bentonite. If you didn't want to use both, then I would definitely go with pectolase, but I like to use bentonite as well. Something that I would also add is citric acid, or here we have just plain old lemon juice. The problem you have is that the majority of the acid inside a plum is malic acid, which isn't ideal. The more malic acid it has, the more tart it's going to be at the end, or you could even say maybe bitter or sour. There are two last ingredients you're going to need. The first one is sugar. I need about 10 kilograms of it because I'm making around 50 liters of this stuff. And the last ingredient is water. Now you can use tap water. If you can get bottled water quite cheaply, then use that instead. But if you are using tap water, the majority of the time there's going to be chlorine in it. So you need to off-gas that chlorine. Just stick the water in a bucket for about half an hour and all that chlorine will come out of the water. If your water happens to have chloramine in it, then I'd recommend using a Camden tablet, half a Camden tablet like we used earlier in the video. After 5 to 7 days, you'll notice that the fermentation is slowing down. What you'll also notice is that this top layer, which would have collected up quite a bit of particles like the fruit, as well as a bit of foam and things like that, would have dropped out, and you'll see that this is starting to become clear. Now, all that stuff that's dropped out, including all the dead yeast, is sitting at the bottom. You can see this nice layer at the bottom. And this is what the pectolase is helping with, as well as the bentonite. The next step for us is to take this clearer liquid off of the top of this and move it up into another fermenting container. Try and look through the barrel there. You can see where the bottom layer is. Keep the bottom of the siphon just above the layer, and you can just push it up against the bucket and you'll be able to see it. So I'm just going to hold it right above there and we'll see how much we can get off of the good stuff. You can also keep an eye on the top here, or the pipes where the liquid is siphoning through. Make sure that it's remaining clear so that the bottom of the siphon is not touching the rubbish at the bottom. And this is looking pretty good. Obviously it's a little bit opaque, but that's because of the juice we're using. But there's no particles or anything running through. That's actually looking really, really good. I've stopped siphoning. And it might look like I'm wasting quite a lot. There's probably about another 2 liters of good stuff over there. The problem is it's getting to the point that the siphon is starting to pick up some of the stuff down the bottom, as well as some of the stuff from the top over there. You just get much better flavors if you can keep this stuff as clear as possible when you shift it over into the secondary fermentation. So we've pretty much filled up another one of these, so it's about 30 liters. And we also filled up one of these, which is exactly what I wanted to do because you'll be able to see things a little bit better inside this demijohn because it is glass. So we need to close these up and let them carry on fermenting. It's finally time for us to taste our creation. Not a very strong plum smell. In my opinion, that tastes incredible. I'm not sure whether I want to actually make it fizzy. Let me go and check with Mrs. Chillichump if she wants to give this a try. She has tried this and she definitely approves. So she likes a Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, that sort of thing, so that sort of dryness. And she says that it's pretty much on par with that. She can get a little hint of the plums, same as I can, but it's not overwhelming. If you weren't told that this was made from plums, you would assume it was made from grapes, like a typical wine. I'll link below where you can get this thing. It's really handy, really easy to use as well. To get this to be sparkling, all that we need to do is add a little bit more sugar. This is going to reactivate some of the yeast that are in here, and after about a week or so, it's going to infuse it with some CO2. Use 5 grams of sugar just in the bottom of the beer bottle. If you are going to be adding sugar, like I've done, to get this to be a little fizzy, and you cap it off with a crown top like this or something else that can seal it. Make sure you give it a good shake before you put it away for the last part of this fermentation, which is basically fermenting the little bit of sugar that we've added to create the bubbles, the CO2. Well, I hope that you try this recipe, and if you do, let me know what you think of it down below in the comments. Until the next video, thanks for watching and stay spicy.